had 3 votes taken. The first vote was to move item number 3 up to, which is the police chief position personnel, up to the first item to be covered under personnel. The second vote, that was 4-0. The second vote was to appoint Grant McGregor to the position of planner, contingent upon passing a national BCI and review of references to begin on February 27, 2023. And that too was a 4-0 vote.
Which is not the formal appointment, it's the...
Right, it's not the formal appointment because we have to wait for it, it was contingent upon. And then the third vote was to move item number 2, which is the tax collector, tax assessor position, to after open session is completed, because we didn't want to wait long, and that vote was also 4-0. I will ask everyone to please stand to pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, ready? Thank you. First on our agenda is public comment. I do not see any at this time. Next, we have consent agenda. Oh, and I do want to mention David Palino is excused. Next is consent agenda.
I make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I would accept at this time a motion to move item 2 and 3 to this point in time. That would be the recognition of the EMA Director, Jamie Brzezinski, from the Rhode Island Department of Health. You have a letter in your packet.
Before we discuss the letter,
I
did you
didn't-
should have the vote to move it?
Yes, but you, I have the letter here.
Did you see a letter?
No.
I'm sorry. So, could I get a motion to do that?
To move us up.
To move items 2 and 3 to this point in time?
Under new business.
Under, yes. Under new business.
Steve has it.
So could I have a motion to move items 2 and 3 to this point?
Yep, I said so moved.
Okay.
Second.
Second, so Heidi made the motion, Steve seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I
Okay,
want to
I'll
read the
do this,
letter.
yes.
Jamie, do you want to come forward?
If you want me to.
I do.
Okay,
Stand somewhere.
it says, this is from the Rhode Island Department of Health. Greetings, Director Brzezinski. The Medical Emergency Distribution System MEDS program at Rhode Island Department of Health would like to take this opportunity to recognize the contributions of Foster to the state's COVID-19 response and vaccine campaign. After decades of planning, training, exercising, and even some small-scale real-world implementations, all the hard work paid off in the COVID-19 pandemic response. As of December 20th, 2022, Rhode Island had the highest percentage of residents who completed the primary COVID-19 vaccination series among all U.S. states per the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Despite going through personnel changes in the EMA position immediately prior to COVID-19 vaccine campaign, Foster contributed in a meaningful way to both the Northern Regional Pod and several collaborative pods held in, those pods are points of dispensary, held in coordination with its neighboring towns. I would be remiss if I did not also tell you that the MEDS program received many call-outs and notes from residents who attended the municipal points of dispensing, pods, offered thanks for not only providing the vaccine, but for also creating it and a welcoming and safe environment for them to receive the vaccine. The work done by you and the rest of the municipal staff and volunteers who were involved prevent countless deaths and instances of severe illness that would have occurred in the absence of these vaccination efforts. Please accept both my and Travis's heartfelt thank you for your past and current partnership with the MEDS program. We look forward to continuing to collaborate together. Best regards, Brittany Bates Manning.
Thank you, Heidi. And as someone who volunteered at almost every one of those times, she did a great job. And we had a lot of volunteers and everything was run smoothly. She put in a lot of hours, I know, for doing that. So thank you and nice recognition. Yes, and congratulations on your baby.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now, next we have, Jamie had recommended Luce, is it Luce?
Yes.
And you're here. Luce Betancourt Rosario as Assistant EMA Director. She has had a BCI check, a national BCI check, and she lives in town. Is there any other questions or you have a motion?
I have the letter, I'll read that if you want.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Hello, my name is Luz Betancourt Rosario. I am interested in the position of EMA Assistant Director. I am interested in this position because as a resident of Foster, I would like to help keep the town safe. I am currently a member of Foster EMS, and I feel like that would help me be a great addition to the team.
It's the pleasure of the council.
I'll make a motion to put Gordon Rogers in as Assistant EMA Director.
Second.
Do you have a recusal?
I do. So the motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. I will say why. I have no objections to Gordon, but when I received a letter and a recommendation from the EMA Director, we've traditionally gone with that. So, it would be a no.
The way I understand, the EMA Director wants Gordon, and you told him that Gordon couldn't do it because
I
he
did
already had
not
a
say
job.
Gordon couldn't do it. We talked about it last year, the last time. We talked about it last time that.
Nope.
I'm not gonna get into the discussion.
Just-
Gordon has
Just
it.
under the discussion, we've already approved him to go to training.
Yes, yep, we did as DPW Director.
But it's going to certify him as EMA.
We're sending him as DPW Director.
I get that.
It's fine, it's.
I just can't, if I would like to speak, you said we had a discussion last year. Could you recall what that was? Because I don't remember the discussion about me not being possibly considered for this.
We had a discussion that you were senator and that you were DPW Director.
Yeah.
And how many hats could you wear? So we had that conversation, and you did withdraw your name at that time.
I absolutely did not have that conversation. As a matter of fact, I helped Jamie through this whole pandemic, acting and doing all the jobs that an assistant would while we were vacant. Picking up all the stuff down at Cranston, delivering it to the police department.
Yeah, I remember
And I
that.
did it just fine. That's why I decided to enter into the program for the FEMA in the disaster, because as a DPW director, I'm in working during all the disasters that hit the town.
I agree, but my vote was that Luce had applied, Jamie said yes, so I went with that. The motion has been made, it's been seconded.
Denise,
vote
can I,
has been
just a
taken.
point of order, I know you voted aye.
Well, I should say no,
No.
I should say nay. So,
I'm sorry. Chris Stone?
Aye.
Aye.
Denise
no. The motion passes. Congratulations, Gordon.
Do you need 3 votes?
You need 3.
3?
Thank you.
It's gotta be a majority.
Didn't pass because it's not the majority of the vote of the council.
Is it a majority of who's here?
Yeah, but
Yes.
it's a majority. Your vote was.
All 3.
I thought
I thought
we
it was
did
only
3.
I'm sorry, Judy, we have too many conversations going on at the council.
Okay, so it doesn't pass.
So then I will withdraw my no and make it a yes. Thank you. Congratulations, Gordon.
Thank you.
Moving on, at this time, I would accept a motion to move item number 1, presentation of the regional school budget, to this point in time.
I will make a motion to move that item up. Shelley Pezza, it's her birthday, happy birthday, and her kids have an event planned for her tonight, so I'd like to do this.
Thank you.
Second.
I'm a February child. So, the motion has been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Jamie, I know you need to get home to your little one.
I do.
Thank
Is it
you.
okay if I leave?
It's all right if
All
you
right.
leave. Thank you. Moving on, presentation. Would you like to stand? Do you want to do it from your seat? Do you want to
Whatever you're-
introduce yourself to all
Whatever
of
you're
us?
comfortable. If I could please introduce you first, is Dr. Palazzo, our
Thank you.
superintendent of Pontiac High School. This is Diane Brennan. She is our, she's a consultant working with us. Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Doing a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm very proud sitting here as they built a very thoughtful and considerate budget. And they did a good job without making any cuts affecting the children. So I'm very proud of them. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here tonight. Again, I'm Renee Palazzo. I'm the superintendent now of Foster Gloucester Regional Schools. I started last May. I was the principal there for the last 7 years. Diane Brennan has been working with our school department as a consultant as we seek to fill our business manager's position. So Diane was an integral part of building the budget with me. We were very thoughtful, mindful, taking curriculum instruction, our current educational programs into consideration. We have not expanded anything, but we have not cut any of our existing programs. We were also mindful of the fact that we have open contracts, moving into open contracts with both our certified and our non-certified personnel. And we are proud, as Shelley said, of what we've built. And I think we made a very conscious effort to be sure that we looked at the factors that need to be in place for student success. Very mindful of the fact of where we are going, where we want to go, and retention of teachers is also an important consideration. So what I'd like to do is, I did send a packet, with a cover letter and then some of what we'll be referencing tonight if you have any questions, but then Diane can give a little more detailed overview, and then if you have questions, we can take those if that's okay.
Thank you. Go right ahead.
Well, as noted by Dr. Palazzo, the budget has been prepared to maintain all the operations for the regional school district. Expenses overall have increased by its 2.46%. You can see that on your summary. And just to let you know, the budget is made up as generally what I'll call it, 2 categories, and that's salary and benefits, and then the non-benefit or non-salary items. You can see just the breakdown from the handout, that salaries have a small increase, and that's based on attrition, that we saw some top step teachers that have been replaced by lower steps, so we were able to bring that change into a 0.4%, which is about $61,000. Benefits is an area of greater increase, but basically the reason for that is that there's more participants in the healthcare and dental plans than had been previously done, as well as just an increase in overall benefits. So there's about a 6% increase in that. If you look on that summary page, that other next category is educational programs, and that educational programs, it looks like it's a reduction. That reduction is really due to some one-time expenses from the prior year, and the actual amount is really going back to what it had been in the prior year actuals. So there is no real reduction in educational programs. Central office and facilities operations, there's a modest increase on that. District-wide operations, the opposite took place. We actually did a restoration of where our facility operations were. The main category in that part that saw that large increase was just our out-of-district tuition costs. So that's being restored back to where it had been in prior years, as we feel as though there's not a large significant change, and we do have to plan for out-of-district tuitions for those students who need to be educated in other areas. Sources of revenue really are relatively limited. But there was a conscious effort to be very mindful of the increase that was provided to the 2 local districts, that's Foster and Gloucester. So the overall increase for the local appropriation was just under 1%, or actually a 0.94% increase, which is about $160,000 to the local appropriation. The allocation, as you get into what it means for Foster, the allocation to the two communities, as you know, is done based on student population and an equalized weighted assessment value, or EWAC as it's considered, and that's provided by the state of Rhode Island. In terms of Foster, you guys actually are reaped the benefit this year. You're actually going to have an overall reduction. I know, and you've been paying.
We need that.
I know, but you're going to actually go down. Your appropriation will actually go down from the prior year in the range of about $123,000.
Don't bake it. It's student population shift.
Right. There is a shift, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
unfortunately, I
Does that
just
go
tell you, I've been on the Gloucester side for a lot of years, and that it always goes back and forth, and it's a good year for Foster to do that.
We'll have a bad, better put it in an account.
The only other caveat that I'd like to tell you about is just that state aid. This assumes that state aid to education, which is the next largest source of funding. This budget has assumed the amount that's been set forth with a couple of just small minor changes that the governor has provided in his budget. And that's what we assume that's there. So as the passage of the budget, the governor's budget, works its way through the General Assembly, if that number really deviates a lot, that will mean some changes to the district to actually increase or decrease based on if that change goes through. So other than that, we've done it the best we can with the information that we have and going forward with the programs that we have, mindful of the local communities as well as some changes that may or may not be coming down from the state that we've prepared for. So if you have any specific questions or want to look at any of the summary sheets, which I gave you kind of a high-level summary so that you can see the variety of categories that go behind that.
Does the council have any questions? Kelly has some questions.
So I just had a few minutes to look at it.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at it. So I did see that you did budget within like a $40,000 or $45,000 for the state aid. So when you just said, so you answered part of my question
Yep.
that I have, and you said that you're going to make the adjustment. What if your budget is adopted next month and then the change happens? Are you going to, because I just received you received the Jordan from the
Right.
League of Cities and Towns, and they recommend not actually budgeting on using that state aid guide because they do believe that it is going to change. So if that change happens after you've adopted the budget, are you going to come back to the municipalities? You're going to try to absorb that yourself?
I think that we would try to kind of do an adjustment on our own as far as that goes. I mean, it depends on the magnitude of that change, if those go forward. I haven't seen what the League of Cities and Towns has prepared, but are they doing a level budget, or do they make a recommendation as to
No, they
what numbers to
provided-
adopt?
They provided what the state had, but they also said, there was a bullet that said,
Right.
I wouldn't recommend using it, is basically what they said. That you need to take into consideration that this has to pass the two
Right, it's
bodies,
General Assembly.
and that it very well may not, as it is written. So I just was wondering when you said that, adjustments would be made, what happens if you've already adopted the budget? Because that's the number that generally will use.
Right. And I think that the magnitude of that would have to come back and see. I mean, if they're going to do a 25% cut, or if they're going to take all the money that they gave to all the districts and then go and give it to, I know that the whole inner core, as far as what they call that inner core group, has seen a reduction. But if you looked at the rest of that budget that the governor did prepare, he has some new categories that are out there that when you looked at it in total, I know the Providence and Pawtucket and that inner core group did reap some of the benefits of that. So I mean, I think that there was an effort made on his part in the way that presentation was done to allow for the districts like the region, like Foster, like Gloucester, like the other non-inner city type communities to qualify for that other aid on the other side. So I found that to be a place that he made it up. And I think that the formula, the state aid, for people who have been around with the school committee, the school departments, state aid had a long list or a long line of how that formula was to be determined. That's changed. So he did what's called an equalized rate. I think he did like a 0.67% for all communities, that all students should have a kind of like a minimum amount of funds to go to them. So for communities that have not had the benefit of that, like the Barringtons and the East Greenwiches, and in some ways the cases up here, they equalized that and they did it by student population, but only a percentage of that. So he did try to equalize something or come up with a formula to mimic that, and how that gets defended, I mean, I really don't know, but I do think that someone did some very thoughtful ideas to understand so that people were not suffering as a result of that. And so I only offer those other two. It's English language learners, I believe, and I can't remember the name of the other category, that will favor the other communities that were also losses on the general state aid piece. So I looked at that and thought, first blush when I looked at it, I said, there's no way this would ever pass. But when I saw the other pieces to come to their aid, I thought that it would have a little bit more weight on that, and I'm sure that it's gonna be in discussion. But we know, I mean, I've been the recipient on the other side, that the budget doesn't pass until August, and all of a sudden, you don't know. I mean, I don't know that there's time to wait for that.
It would be a huge concern, because I don't even think legally, once that's settled, that's in our budget, and that's really, it would be a huge deal.
Right.
So when I also saw that you increased your use of fund balance for this budget and revenue. So I was wondering, what is your overall fund balance?
It's still being, the audit is still being done, but the overall, I believe it was like 2.6 or something, not the undesignated, but from the last audit, from 2021.
So the undesignated for 21. Undesignated meaning it's not set aside, you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
So
Yep,
it's
about
free and
$1 million.
available for use should you have
It's about
a significant cut in state aid.
$1 million was in there for our 2021, we're going through 2022. I believe that we'll probably maintain that level to go forward for the next year.
So it's $1 million more?
I believe that's the last I
Oh,
looked.
just-
I don't have that number right in my thing.
If I may speak,
Because you said,
You said
Well,
I
there's-
just, I don't like,
there's a
I'm not a
fund
person who
balance.
likes surprises, anybody
no,
knows
no,
me.
no,
knows
listen,
that.
that's private, you could
And-
handle, taxpayers can handle, oh, guess
And we
what?
couldn't handle it.
No, you
We
can't.
could not.
And that's what, we wouldn't do that to you, and I think the fund balance that we did transfer over, that was to balance the budget, but we're not anticipating to use it, because the tuition students is an
Okay.
unknown area,
Okay,
and it's hard to budget that to AT, because kids can pull out.
okay.
Yeah.
So the fund balance that we have appropriated, am I incorrect speaking here? So the fund balance that we are transferring over, that is to balance the budget on books, but we're not anticipating using that because
Okay.
it depends on the tuition revenue that's coming in, because we can't budget to a T.
I agree.
And that's why the fund balance has increased, because we do tend to get more kids that stay sometimes than we
All right.
expect.
Have you been using your fund balance in the last few years?
No.
Okay.
No.
From a budgetary standpoint,
From
yes,
a
but from a
budget-
gap standpoint, no.
Yes, from a budgetary standpoint, so the fund balance, the total fund balance for the region is 2.6.
All right.
And then
it's
some of that is
designated for-
designated, some of that is designated, and some of it's committed for
Right,
capital.
so
and
the undesignated.
The undesignated is 1.1.
So that's what you have available, okay.
All right? So I
Yes.
think it would take us a few years, and again, depending upon the magnitude of what kind of change would be out there, we would not be the only district that would be hurting, I wouldn't assume, because of the change that's out there. So I think everybody would have to try to reevaluate, and I would hope that, you know, you would all look to your own legislators to try to go and support what is out there so that they can,
I'm just concerned that there are a lot of variables that might come back and bite us. Well, come back and bite you, because once we vote on it, it's
As long
done.
as you
Well,
make the consideration, that's what I'm.
the region does we do it,
What, Chris?
As long as you've considered these things and that you can adapt.
The reality is either we overtax you for money that we might not get, we don't wanna do that. We have this discussion in the budget meetings.
Okay, so as long
It's
as you.
either, we did, and we said, we're not gonna overtax you with the just in case, because that's not fair to the taxpayers.
Okay.
We don't need to blow our,
Thank you.
the fund balance.
Yeah.
So with the just in case, we're not gonna do that. It's
Okay.
just not fair, because then you're bloating the budget for no reason. It's
And
just,
then in the
with
future,
the-
you got nothing, so, okay.
All right, so you have considered and you've
Thank you.
compared your
Here's-
current student
here's-
population with what they're
there
calculating and stuff.
have a few
Okay.
different variables in some of that revenue piece that would help to identify some of those other spots that perhaps
Okay.
could come forward. And
would it be
again,
ideal? No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean
It's
to
not.
interrupt
No,
you
you're
there.
right.
Would it be ideal? Absolutely not, but we would do what would need to be done.
Yeah, as long as you could handle it, because we couldn't at that
Right.
point. We
No,
would have already moved on and we would
we'd
be
have
able
to
to
do
make
what we
the
could do. I
adjustment.
mean, the problem is for them to make that kind of August is unrealistic because you can't give layoffs.
Yeah,
So you can't give layoff slips, you can't, there's a lot, so on their perspective, I think they may be doing that as like a just in case, but the reality is, you can't, and for us to give a layoff slip to teachers all through summer, then we're paying unemployment all summer, so we're also absorbing that unnecessary cost that we don't need to do. So for them to do that would be irresponsible on that regard, if there was, that's all I'm trying to say, it's.
okay.
and I think for us too, we do have to kind of move forward in a way that we are trying to be as responsible as we can with the information that we have.
All right. And the other
Yep.
thing, and again, just very quick, so I was
Yep,
just
go ahead.
analyzing the cost. So the salaries, it was odd, like I was looking at the
Yep.
central office salaries, the PMS salaries, the PHS salaries, And they only really went up a net of 33,000, and basically when you're looking at a 13 or 14 million dollar budget, even at a rate of 3%, so you're saying you had so significant
we had-
transition from your higher level people to lower?
From the budget that was put together, because again, we're doing a budgetary, when the budget was put together for '23, it had been assumed that certain people were gonna be there. When '23 started, some of those people were not there. So we had that higher base, and now we hired, so they hired some people, so some people are coming in at lower steps, so I'm taking them forward. So the benefit of people not being there for the budgetary, it's got a positive budgetary impact, but it carries forward. So when you look at that, that's where that change came from.
Okay. And where are you in the budget cycle, just for my reliability on the numbers? So did you already have your public hearing?
No, but we've already approved it at the school committee meeting on Tuesday. So last night, we approved it as a proposed budget. We're not having any more budget meetings, we're done.
The
So
public
the
hearing
public
is
hearing-
next week.
I have it.
So the March 7th meeting, that's the official public hearing.
And when is the
March 21?
March 21st.
March 21st? Thank you. Gordon, you had a question?
A couple things. The variable is the funding formula, I think, is that the biggest variable? And the other thing too is, I mean, I hear this every March, schools will send out unemployment slips even just for the in case, and it does create a lot of drama I hear every year in March, but it's state required that you have to send them notice or you can't lay them off. So a lot of schools customarily will cover their bases and send more out than they need just to cover that, and then we get the scare in March. But back on the funding formula, prior to COVID taking place, there was a committee, and I think there were joint committees in the House and the Senate, and just so you didn't know, I'm the state senator, so I represent.
I was telling her, that's why I wasn't.
Right, sorry about that, I
No,
apologize.
it's okay. I appreciate you, and I'd like to let you hear the problems
so-
of municipalities and.
So pre-COVID, there was a committee put together, funding formula committees on both sides.
Right.
The Senate side, we pretty much finished, but nothing really carried through as the COVID hit. But one of the most important things, and I'm the sponsor of the bill, because we all divvied out the bills, and which one was very important to me, coming from a rural community, dealing with what you guys deal with here on both sides of the table, was the enormous funding shift that would send municipalities into a tailspin trying to recover from that. So one bill that was even just put in the hopper the other day and had a signature, just to give you a thought that it really's got legs and it will probably go, will come out of that committee and was even signed by the majority leader. So that is that no municipality will be held harmless on a deduction more than 1% in any fiscal year. So they can't cut you any more than 1% from your previous year. So that gives you some kind of balancing moving forward where you know what the biggest cut will be. It's the one, it'll be no more than 1%. So moving forward, it gives you a little idea, some stability that you can work in. Now, they may take a few years, they may have wanted to do 2, but they'll go 1% one year, 1% the next year, and you can work it into your budget. So that should pass when we have these discussions on the bills on the funding
So
formula.
how does that fall into place with the proposed budget that the governor has now?
Don't know, alls I know, if that bill passes, the governor presents a bill, the legislature works on it and makes changes, and education is big and funding formula is big, so again, it's in the works.
The only reason I asked the question is that I think that you can go in the legislation, I think it's great, I really do. I think it gives you that margin of error so that as a planner, when it comes time to put your budget together, that you would know what that margin of error would be and you could hit it where you wanted to hit it. But how, I don't know how, would that be retro to the year that we're in?
No, I don't think so.
Right.
It could be
So
that's all in the discussions.
Right,
It looks like you've done pretty good this year. You don't know what you're gonna get, but, you've got a little bit of leeway. It could be retroactive to this year. Again, the budget will be worked on both sides. It's not what the governor presents, it's what the
Correct.
governor gets. But the education and the funding formula has been worked on, and it's gonna have both sides on it.
so was the legislative body, were they helpful in determining how the governor came up with some of the numbers that he came up with?
I don't really pay attention too much to the education spot, but the numbers of 20 million for infrastructure
Right, the total.
did come from a push of legislatures last year and the funding to help the municipalities with businesses and stuff. not my wheelhouse on education. I leave that to Jessica Dela Cruz. Within our group, we all take little wheelhouses. But I do know I was on the funding formula task force because we have to represent a Republican on every single committee that's there. And there's so little Republicans and so many committees.
So you have a lot of jobs, right?
Yes.
Now, what I would ask is that, given that the information came out, and I think everybody was fearful when the information did come out, what it was gonna be, because the funding formula has been in place for such a long period of time, how is it gonna appear? And when I saw the way or the method that seemingly came out.
Free and reduced lunch program change.
I'm not going there. But anyway, how the funding formula came out and how they did try to keep track of student population to get a minimum amount for every district. I do think that it was helpful for all of the time that's been going on, and I'm not here to, discredit any other district that's out there, but the state of Rhode Island has given a lot of money to other districts that really are not doing well in their performance at the expense, I believe, to some of the other districts.
And a lot of that, the biggest part of that, 40% of the weight was the free and reduced lunch program, which carried 40% of the decision, which,
But
Yeah.
it just
That's been
seemed like,
historically.
it
Yep,
just seemed
and that's being
like,
addressed.
and it just seemed like that method seemed to, and I know it looked very unusual to a lot of people looking at that number, but when you looked at that number and you saw what it did and the reasons why, there were a lot of communities that weren't getting what they had minimum to educate their students.
I
And
agree.
I think that method is a difficult one in some ways.
The rural
to
communities
go down that-
aren't treated equitable.
No, and there was no,
At the
but
State
there was no
House.
minimum effort given to any of the funds that were received, that the state was giving to the districts on any population at all. So the consideration, one district got $5,000 and the other district got $25,000.
Sounds like a rural community coalition issue.
Correct, and I would hope that that would be well represented when it comes time to being discussed with that funding formula, because I do think that it didn't come out entirely that you got a big gigantic windfall, but it certainly did equalize it a little bit more than what it had been in the past. And yes, Forster Gloucester really reaped the benefits of a more favorable funding than they had in the past. Not always, we got some money before, it wasn't that they never got an increase, they did. So I didn't think that it was all that bad to look at that in that fashion. So I would applaud in some ways some of that stuff.
The only other thing is,
Yep.
I usually worked with Bridget and Dr. Barnes to try to calculate the exact dollar value of the reduction or increase in student population, because we budget appropriately for that. We have a whole plan that we,
For the student set aside fund?
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay.
that we created years ago, and it's worked well for us.
It does.
And so, I'm gonna wanna talk to you more about that, like,
Sure,
how
just the student
we, so I
population.
can kind of break it out about, I know the population's in there and I haven't really had a chance to
Yep,
look at it,
yep.
but I try to equate it, a dollar value from all the changes and the cumulative effects. So, who would I even contact with that? Cause I know, I don't think you're at the office, do you have a?
Well, I
don't
have
know
pretty
who
good
to contact with any
knowledge
questions.
with this stuff, if that's what you're looking for, as far as just coming up with an
Yeah.
average, you can, I'm,
So maybe we can talk about it
Yeah.
later instead of like right now trying to calculate, so we can put it in our budget. We'll probably put an increase in our budget, but minimal considering, and then put the student population shift aside like we've done in the past.
yeah, I
Just
would
for-
recommend that for sure, I
Yeah.
think, we've talked, and I
Yeah,
was in my other position in Glasgow, I
Yeah.
used to do the school business manager as well as that, and we would talk back and forth,
So
so
if
that,
you
and
can-
we would put it aside.
so if you're the appropriate person, Shelley, right, then
I'll just send you an email and connect the two of you.
that'd be great.
Okay.
I have her email address, you emailed me, right?
Well, that
But
was
your
my home,
contact,
but I would
okay,
do- I
whatever
would
you
do it
wanna
from-
do,
yeah,
however you wanna
no
do it, so that I can talk to you so that we can budget appropriately.
Shelley, you have your hand up.
I did, I just wanted to add that I think everyone needs to recognize, and they do recognize, that the education loss that took place under COVID and the 2 years of lack of learning had a huge impact on that decision for the governor's budget. And do I agree with a lot of things the governors do? No. But do I agree with the education part? Yes, because I think we need to boost that back up, and I think they recognize it as well. And if they did talk about cutting the education, I would be there fighting to support the funding for the schools, because they need it to increase the education all the loss that took place with these students. So that's all. We would figure it out in the strength, so we're not gonna come back to the taxpayers.
In regards to that, did you use all of your federal dollars that you received for the, education?
She created a lot of positions, like the reading specialist, the math specialist. Am I incorrect?
No, you're correct.
Are they permanent positions?
No.
Okay.
Any other questions from the council?
No?
Thank you so much for coming, appreciate it.
Thank you, happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
Shelley.
Shelley. Thank you for having us. Appreciate you
This
moving
guy's
us.
hand up.
Yeah. Oh, good, too. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Gunther?
I have a quick question, because a lot of numbers fly here through the room.
Yes,
Is the budget the same, or does it increase? Or
it increases.
as usual, okay. But I just did here $120,000.
As with everything,
But
Gunther.
I just did here $120,000 less.
It's because the student population shift.
Right, this student population is a different thing with the budget. Okay, thank you. Okay,
So for your knowledge too, I've told Denise this too, it looks like in the trends that we're probably gonna be on the positive end of the student population shift for the next couple of years, which is good to hear.
When it turns around.
That is.
It does, and we put that money aside, but it's still better than being on the wrong end.
That's right.
it does
That's
make
right.
nice stuff. We need to go back to old business, which is the police station update. We have, the police building committee has not had a meeting since the last time we discussed it, but you do have in your packet the land survey. Eric finished that and sent it to us so that we can look at it. Gordy also has a copy of it. I talked to
Was that in
Jen.
the last, was that in our last, why didn't I see a land survey?
I have it. It's in, no, it's
It
in this
should
one.
be, it should be in Sugar
It was in
Sync.
Sugar Sync?
I just pulled it up from Sugar Sync. so-
All right, so I
Chris
don't know
can
how
show
I was-
you, Chris.
I missed that one.
Yeah.
It's a, so Gordy does have it. I talked to the planner today and asked her what the next steps are. And the next step would be for South Foster to apply for an administrative subdivision, thank you. And Gordy had said that he was going to get that going. So I guess it just depends on the planning departments.
I think that I talked to with Anthony Renzi about that, and, you know, if they bring it to him, they'll put it through.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's all, you know, I mean, I don't think they can do that until they figure out, have they figured out yet the size they're gonna offer?
We haven't had a meeting since the last time we discussed,
How
so
come they aren't meeting today? So there are
I-
people, no quorum, of
there
people not
hasn't,
going?
yeah, there hasn't been a quorum, so they, Anthony, Joe had just sent out a survey asking when people can make.
Are they the same people that aren't showing up?
He moved the meetings to 5:30,
Mm-hmm.
which affects Brenda Mara.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only one that has not.
But
been
you'd
able
still
to.
have a quorum without
We
just
still,
Brendan?
right, we have now that Anthony's been attending, so we have a quorum now.
Yeah, this is just, you know, I was going over it and we got issues going back to 2014 when the fire marshal started getting involved.
Mm-hmm,
The committee was formed April 28th of 2016.
mm-hmm,
We had a special financial town meeting scheduled for September 28th, 2020, and it was canceled because there came a new land proposition. Then we got it to a financial town meeting, June 15th, 2021, and it was approved.
mm-hmm.
And now we're looking at almost 2 years since it's been approved, and it's been stalled and stalled and stalled. And then we hear it's parking spaces, there's an issue with parking spaces, and I'm getting really frustrated with this, like, how long do these cops have to wait for this building? I mean, we're looking at, since the bell started ringing in 2014, we're at 8 years. This is embarrassing. So, it's embarrassing. So I don't know what to do. I think if the building committee can't meet, if there's people that can't attend, then we need to replace them. We need to get this done. I don't wanna wait another 6 months to get a subdivision done. It's
Oh, I would hope
ridiculous.
it wouldn't be done in.
But we thought we were gonna have a
I know,
shovel in
I
the
know.
ground last spring.
But it's 6 months here, 6
I know,
months there,
and
they
that's
keep
what-
adding
that's what's
another 6
happening.
months.
Administrative subdivision could be done in one night. They can do
And-
that in
I
10
mean,
minutes.
And then
It doesn't necessarily need to go to the board. It's a 15-day, so it goes to, the administrative subdivision goes to your planning official to review, because that's your administrative officer. They have 15 days to certify it complete, and then 15 days to review it. but it doesn't, unless it's controversial or
days.
creates an issue where there could be a substandard lot. or
So
something
how
like
does that work
it
with,
doesn't
it's
necessarily-
South Foster's property? It's not ours.
They're the owner,
Yeah.
Town Foster would be at the applicant. The
We would
planner
be-
still has to abide by the requirements in the zoning and land use ordinances.
So we would be the ones applying for the administrative subdivision?
They would be the owner.
You could be, so owner or, so it's
Okay.
owner or applicant, if they're willing to do it, they can do it. But
Because
if
when
it's
I
Town
spoke to
Foster,
Jennifer
as-
today, she said that whoever owns the property is the one that,
They, generally it is an owner, if there's a lessee or something like that, an applicant can, they can be different from the owner, but everyone's gonna sign on to it if that's the way that it is. If the owner's the applicant, then it's one party.
and right now, we're not anything, the title
Because
hasn't
you
been.
wouldn't take it until the administrative subdivision
So
is
we would
complete.
need
This is-
South Foster to make that application.
To the
And when
planning
I spoke to Gordy the other night, he said that he's willing to move along.
I think we need a deadline before we decide to
What's
move
the
this
pleasure of the
whole.
council?
Yeah, I just, it's going on too long, and all these little things, the stalling and the, oh, we don't know how many parking spots we need, I mean, how hard is that to figure out? I said that at our last meeting too, and the longer we wait, I mean, it's gotten so much more expensive, you had to cut the building down.
They can't do a administrative subdivision unless they know the size they're gonna give us.
Well, this is,
And they don't have that size yet.
right.
They were waiting for the architect. Now, whether the architect has done that, I don't know.
But it sounds like they wanna give us the least amount of property.
They do.
Yes.
Of course.
As they can.
Right.
I mean, honestly, how can you say,
I know, but
okay, I mean, I don't, I can't say.
they
give us-
offered it to us to put the police station on. It's almost like they're putting stipulations.
Well, it just bothers me that that stalled our progress for 2 more years. You know,
I see you, Mrs. Ryder.
I think it's ridiculous, I think it's embarrassing, and I think we're gonna have to put a timeline on it. And, you know, either get it done or move it.
Can I make a motion to instruct the DPW director to take this land next door, look at it, and come up with a price and an idea if we can switch that over there and just use that, how much it would cost to do it, if it's feasible to do.
I would put that to the solicitor as,
You
I don't wanna know what
I don't
that.
even think we
You
need a motion
could-
for that.
You could make a motion for that, but, no offense to your DPW director, he's not a licensed land appraiser, so that's not gonna fly.
What, why would we need an appraiser? We would
If
need
you're
some-
asking for a price on something, you would want a
I
legitimate,
want
like, someone who appraises.
I'm
He's
not-
asking for what it would cost to.
We already own
We
land.
own the land, he's, what Steve is looking for
Clear
is
a septic
if
system.
we were going to put the building there.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not sending out RFPs.
No, just how much work would be involved.
And if the
in
highway
preparing
guys
that.
can do it, what's that?
We can do it under this agenda item?
I would suggest putting it on the next agenda, because you would reasonably ascertain that that would be the vote taken from this agenda item.
Do
And
we
although
need to
there's
Just
a
put it on
gray,
the next agenda.
Wait,
although
do we
there's
need
a
one?
gray area there,
That's what I'm saying. Do
it's
we
one
need
that the
a
AG
motion?
likes to pick on.
Do we need a motion? Can we just ask him to look at it, come back and let us know?
Not taking a vote.
You've already talked about wanting to do the motion and going and vote out, I wouldn't back out on that. I would just put it on the next agenda and.
All right, so what did you say the next step here is, because I'd like to put a deadline on that.
Okay, one second, I'm just putting my,
Nobody seconded your motion.
no.
Okay, so.
I didn't take it as a motion, I took it as, can we ask?
Can we, yes, okay.
So Ben Eddy building property. I know that's not what it is, but it tells me what to,
I forget what number it is, 0 something.
gives me a note,
What
gives
is,
me a note.
what is your question?
Okay, so I wanna know, like, what, you said the next thing is a subdivision, but how are they gonna subdivide if we don't even know how much we're getting?
So
That's right.
so part of the administrative subdivision application is a class 1 survey of the lots that would exist. So
Which we
the
did have
proposal-
done.
That's what this is, isn't it?
That's
That's
what
what
we
this
have
is.
in
And
your,
it would be it would be how it's, I haven't seen this, but it would be how it's separated, like what the angles are of the different corners, what the lengths are, what the size of the properties are, and then it'd be the administrative subdivision application to your
so,
administrative officer, which is your planning official.
so basically, what we've been told is that the architect has to determine the parking spaces, et cetera, what
the how many handicap spaces, what the size is, blah, blah, blah. And we've all talked about, you should be able to figure that out.
Right.
That needs to come from the architect. I don't know whether that's been completed or not, I can't say. And then from there would be the subdivision. So I don't know if that helps you with what you want to make your motion with.
Generally, because this is gonna be something that you're going to do, make improvements on, they also want a site plan. So that would be what's they're waiting on from the architect, would be the site plan, where things would lie. So you have the class 1 survey, but then it would be a site plan.
I want a deadline, and you know, if they can't meet on whatever night it is, or if it's at 5:30, then adjust your meeting night, adjust your meeting time, and get this done. I mean, this is.
Heidi, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
I mean,
we need to get this done.
I would think that the fire department should just, at a meeting, decide right then and there how much they want to give and move on.
We can't, that's them, we
Can't
can't
tell
tell
them.
them what to do.
Well, we can do something ourselves.
So,
Go ahead, Nancy.
and so did Mrs. Ryder first, I believe. Mrs. Ryder.
I think Mr. Walsh has ad nauseum said what is taking so long. Waiting for the architect, waiting because of, you know, they're backed up totally. As far as, I mean, I don't think you could ask more of the building committee than what they've been doing. And as far as the fire company, the building committee has no control over that whatsoever. If you wanted this done on a timely manner, which every other community, if they want something done on a timely manner, they hire someone to oversee the entire project. They're the ones that go to the fire company. They're the ones that goose these people along. They're the ones who do this. Otherwise, you end up with a ball field that takes 14 years. It's ridiculous. And as far as looking at this land for a police station, that's ludicrous, because you would have to go for a well, you would have to go for septic system. DEM is taking, what, 6-8 months to even look at a septic system proposal. And you would have to redo the entire plan, no doubt, as they have had to do when they went from here to there. You would probably be pushing this back another year and a half.
Thank you, Mrs. Ryder. Mr. Rogers, you had your hand raised.
Yes, it is a little bit, some of the points Ms. Ryder brought up were true. One of the points that was not true, Mr. Walsh put a great presentation on at that financial town meeting when the taxpayers voted on it, and he was asked explicitly, if this passes tonight, when do you think shovels will be in the ground? And the guy on the committee said 6 months. 6 months shovels will be in the ground. It's 2 years ago and they're no closer. Now, this is not as simple as it seems, just go over and do that. You have to basically pick an area. It would probably formulate right back to the original police building that was gonna be put over here into the hill. You'd have to design it, you'd have to pick the area, you'd have to start somewhat with scratch, do a topo and design your land grades to your cuts and fills, which isn't a big deal. They undid what we had here to do that over there. The water issue is not a water issue. We're supplying the police station on a public water system right now. We have public water right in this building. We'd simply tap it and continue to the police station there. It's not a big deal. The septic system, it does not take 6 to 8 months. It'd be, once, you'll be working on your building plans, you do a perk. As that all formulates, everything will come together, but it will take a while if you change your site. It will be a lot of stuff going over again, but you have benefits here and benefits there. This is close to a bigger area. You wouldn't have the question of saying, here's your footprint, that's all you can use. This is all the parking spots you're ever gonna have for the next 30 years. You got 14 acres here to expand on multiple things. You have your center here with the library, the town hall, the Van Eddy, a lot more opportunities here than you'll ever see down there. So I think it's gonna be an opinion on where you want it, and your growth may be very extremely limited over there. Your growth here is actually unlimited, and you have a lot of options.
I just want it done.
I have another question. They say they got a well in the septic system there. They haven't been used in 20 years.
They've been checked.
They have been checked?
Yes, they have been checked. Yep, and they're both usable.
Okay.
So what's the pleasure of the council at this time? I presented what we have so far. You have your land survey.
I don't know, I'm at a loss. How can it be taking this long? Like in Situate, they needed a police station, boom, boom, boom. Granted, there was some issues later on. There were issues later on, but I mean, it didn't take them that long from when it was approved to start building it. And was it done, did they do it right? No, but we've got an architect that's gonna do it right. It just is taking too long.
I don't think there's anyone who would disagree with you that we did not expect it to take this long. For whatever reason, it's been going and going and going.
So you sit at
We
their
now
mercy?
have, no, I'm not saying that. I'm asking you, what is the pleasure of the council?
I wanna give them some kind of a deadline to at least get this subdivision done. Get something done, so there's like a fire under their butts to keep moving. And this excuse of, we can't meet, there's no quorum, well then either get rid of some members and get some that will show up, or adjust the meeting times and dates. It's
Make the committee
ridiculous.
small.
So what would you like me to bring back to the committee? Are you making a motion? What would you like me to bring back to the committee?
That's not a motion. How long is reasonable to have them apply for the subdivision? Can they do it? They can't do it yet.
They would, like, they need the site plan, so that's, I don't know the architect, that's
They
that's
can't
not
do it,
something I
Leslie.
can
They don't even know what they're gonna give us. They can't go for a subdivision, they don't have no idea, they have no idea what size it is. Until that's all ironed out, you can't do an administrative subdivision. What are you gonna say, I don't know, about this big?
So would you like me to call and pressure the architect? There's two people, Gunter was first and then, okay. Would you like me to, I've had in the past, gotten in touch with the architect and said, what's happening? Would you like that? Would one of you like to call the architect and ask?
I mean, you can call and ask, but I don't know. I just.
Would you like me to call and ask if they have
Before,
what is it called? The site plan
The
done?
site plan.
the problem is, before the architect can do that, South Forest has to tell them the size they wanna give them, how much they wanna give them. At the last meeting, they were worried about whether it's gonna be 8 or 10 parking spaces.
I think what they're waiting for, and I could be wrong, I think it's just the opposite. I think they're waiting for the site survey, and then they'll decide what land. Because the site survey is going to include how many parking spaces. So I think they're looking for the site survey, and from the site survey, they will determine how much property.
Well, all right, how about this, if I can't put a deadline on this right now, can we at least, at every council meeting, have a member from there
Okay, from the building
with
committee?
an update, like a legitimate update, because
I'm not legitimate.
I'm at like the end of my work with this.
I'm not legitimate. So, okay, building committee member come.
Well, the
Every
problem-
meeting, every
The
The
meeting.
problem with that is the building committee can only do what they can do. If South Forest does it, they have to decide
I
how
want an
big
update, I want an update.
No, I know that, but South Forest has to decide the size of the lot they want to give. So the building committee can't do anything until they do that, right?
Right, and
So we're back to South
Well,
Forest.
this is my, he's on the building.
Yes.
Yes.
So here's my,
But he's not
Here's
gonna
my-
do anything without the board of the fire station.
Right. So they're the
So
ones that
here's-
have to.
so here's where I think the predicament is at this time. I think it's because they don't have that site survey. They might have it now, I don't know. So they need the site survey, then they can determine how much land they can give us. And then they can do the administrative subdivision. So then I can reach out to the architect and ask him if he has the the
Site plan.
site, thank you, between
So
subdivisions
there
and.
are two things, a lot of times when they're building, they want a site plan to see what your, planned development is of the land, but a class 1 survey of the specific section of property, because this one looks like Southwestern has 2 sections of property, but not something that's surveyed for what they're specifically giving you, is that my understanding of this, like, this survey has it broken up, but it has it broken
I
up into
couldn't
two
I couldn't understand what
large
that was,
pieces
so I
of
can't.
property, So I'm not sure if this bottom piece is all that they're going to, like, what they're planning on subdividing, or if it's a section within that bottom section that they're planning.
I don't understand that survey that they sent us, so I can't say. But what I will do is call the architect and ask him if he's had the site plan completed. And then meet with, call Gordy, or you can call Gordy and say, when is the division going to be done? Yeah, who's gonna do that? Who's gonna talk to Gordy?
I can talk to Gordy.
Okay.
And then, yes, if you could make sure that there's somebody representing them here at every meeting now, because.
I have that
I
down.
think we gotta revisit this at the next couple of meetings and then.
Yes.
if
That's
nothing
why I
happens at
want-
the next
yeah,
meeting in
I
March,
want-
we'll just do something.
I want this on every single agenda, and I want somebody
And I will
here.
talk to Joe about that,
Okay.
as he's the chair. I had some hands raised.
Financing, because now that we just got a bill for, I wanna say it was like $58,000 or something like that for the architect, and we only have so much budgeted, and we haven't
Okay.
started with the financing, so I really think we need to move forward one way or another.
Okay.
Okay.
So what I'll do is invite Joe Walsh or a representative to the 23rd meeting, so that those things can be
Yeah,
discussed.
so as long as I have a handle on what you really think, when the bill we can start the process
Mhm.
of securing the financing in the.
I have Gunther first, Mr. Moreau, and then Mrs. Ryder. Gunther.
The problem is also with the old police station is there any incident happening, anything, what goes to the state fire marshal, they can close down the building very quickly.
Yes, we
We
know.
only allowed to use this building at the moment.
Yes,
Yes.
we're well aware of that.
So this
Thank
is,
you.
as Mrs. Rogers did say, it takes for ages to get this rolling for, I don't know, how many years now. And the other problem, what I never hear anything about is about renewable energy for the fires, for the police station. They need to be heated, they need to be cooled. I don't
That's
think-
something that they have discussed at the building committee meetings. Mr. Mara is a very strong proponent for that, and,
Yeah, but sorry to interrupt you, but the meeting at the time a normal working person can go.
that's been established.
And we've been looking at grants too for that.
Right. Mr. Moreau.
Basically, what I was, is I have to agree with Heidi, it's taken way too long.
I don't think
And it-
anybody
and-
disagrees with Heidi.
Yeah, you can't disagree with that. However, the whole process, I mean, the fire department, they need to have that site plan. That's the beginning. And once we have that site plan, then they can decide. So they need the site plan first. I don't know what's taking the architect that long. And it doesn't take that long to figure out parking spots, because the state has a formula for that, that works out how many handicap you need per parking spaces. We know how many cars the police department has. You allow for visitors, and you allow for handicap parking. It's a simple process, it's not that complicated. And I have to say, the property next door, if you remember when we first purchased that property, we said this would be a good location for a police department, originally. That was one of the ideas we had when we purchased that property. And that was a bargain piece of property we got, it really was. And then I think that, I have to agree, we need to set a deadline.
Yeah.
If within the next couple of months this is not done, I think that we should proceed with another location. It should not take the fire department or the architect any much longer than 2 months to get this process started and done. And I truly believe that that's necessary. 2 years has been a long time,
It is.
a long time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have something else? You're looking down at your list.
No.
Okay.
Which thing to be.
Gordon, you had your hand raised? I thought I had 3. Oh, Mrs. Ryder.
I've attended several of the police building committee meetings, and I am the only one there. If someone has a lot of questions, why not just go to the meeting and ask when you have all of the people who are part of that group there who can answer you in real time, rather than waiting 2 weeks, a month, whatever. And, you know, I understand what Bob is saying, but don't think that saying, oh, well, if you can't do it by now, we're gonna look elsewhere. That is not a threat to them. I doubt they really care. And all of your work over the past 2 years, and don't forget, we had a pandemic which screwed everybody up, you know, you're gonna be starting from square one again. So be it. So rather than 8 years, it'll be 12 years.
Thank you, Mrs. Ryder. I think we've discussed this enough to move on to the next agenda item. Do you have?
Yeah, we're gonna have this on the agenda, every
Yeah.
agenda.
Yeah. Did you have another motion? Or
No.
Okay. So moving on, we have appointment of zoning board member. This would be a full, it would expire December 2026. As you know, we had resignation for a zoning board member. I reached out to the 2 alternates, as we have done historically, and one did get back to me and said yes, and one got in touch with Steve and said yes. So what is the pleasure of the council?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Manny Camonio for the 5-year term.
It would be a 5-year, it would
Full
be.
member, the
Yeah.
remainder of his term.
Okay, and that was Steve
Second.
and Chris. Okay, so the motion has been made to move Manny Tomodio to a full position to expire December 2026 to fulfill the previous zoning board member. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on, because now we'll have an alternate position. Do we have anybody that we've looked into?
Can we advertise it? I'd like to advertise it.
Thank you.
Make a motion, should I make a motion?
No, we'll just have,
Okay.
we'll just have, okay, thank you. So we're going to advertise for that position. Now we have the possible amendments, additions to the zoning ordinance, and Julia provided this, quite enough for her, Julia. And if you recall, at our last meeting, when we had the resignation, there was discussion about being able to remove a planning board member or a zoning board member, and how that process is, and that we don't have it in our charter as to how that would work. So Mark Torgy was here at that time, and he recommended that we look back at it and to see where to move forward. So Julia was given that assignment, and go ahead, Julia.
So you guys do have the inherent authority to remove as part of your appointment authority, that's case law, but the Zoning Enabling Act does say those that establish the zoning board with the home rule charter should have it in their charter or at a minimum in their zoning ordinance, and you don't have that power in there. So we're making the suggestion, because it's easier to amend the zoning ordinance than it is to do a charter change. It's a more immediate thing, it just requires, the advertising and going through planning and the public hearing. To make that amendment to the zoning ordinance, and then down the line you can do it to the charter, because it's something that needs to be voted on, and funding a special election is something you guys want to do right now. So we made the suggestion that it be an amendment to the zoning ordinance, just to add the removal power in there.
So, do you want to make a motion to discuss it, and what would that motion look like?
You can make a motion to move forward with an amendment, and then that would task our office with drafting it and pushing it through in the.
All right, I'll make a motion to move forward with the amendment.
Second.
Discussion. Did you have a discussion, or were you just asking?
No.
Mrs. Ryder?
Don't we already have in our charter the steps necessary to remove someone from a board or a commission?
Not specific to the zoning.
Not specific, but wouldn't what is in the charter trump whatever?
It's removal of an employee, not removal of a board member. But
No, it says in board members. Because remember, Ron Spazio got removed?
Can we let Julia?
But it's under the same term, it's for cause, so it's not like a pleasure of the council thing, but the Zoning Enabling Act requires it to be specific to the zoning board and the charter. It's in that section, so it's an amendment to that, but at least you'd want it in the zoning ordinance.
I don't understand how that supersedes what's in the charter, or makes
State law, the Zoning Enabling Act's the state law.
Right.
So our charter therefore has been incorrect all along? as far as removing
It's been-
someone from a board or commission?
It's been silent as to the zoning board, but there has been case law that has rectified that, but the state law says what it says. I'm just suggesting that we amend it to comply fully with the state law.
I just think that the charter, I know it.
We've had,
But-
it's been seconded, you voiced your
All right,
concerns,
but
thank you.
would it be, could it just be because I don't like you?
I
Then
don't
you
think
get
so.
removed?
Oh,
No, it's
No,
for
it's
cause and
for-
it's legally sufficient evidence.
We have to
It's,
provide.
that's the
We
law.
would never, I would never approve that, I'm
That's
sure the rest of the council members would not approve
The
that.
for cause.
So we have a motion.
What a great smile on the line. What a joke.
We have a motion made, it's been seconded, further discussion from the council. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so then you have also the possible amendment of section 24-34 of the town ordinance, and it's the same.
Yes and no. So this particular section talks about how planning board members end up on the
yes.
board, and it
Oh.
conflicts with the charter. So the charter says that they're appointed by the town council, which is in accordance with state law. This section says that they are elected at the financial town meeting. So we're just, because this has been flagged and, you know, we're already talking about making an ordinance amendment, just have this comply with the charter language. That's it, just,
Okay.
it's basically.
And at this time, the charter would supersede this ordinance,
Yes,
so
so
that
it's
would
not
be
really an
happening,
issue,
so.
but it's more of a
It's
cleaning
very
up.
confusing.
It's a cleaning up
It really
issue,
was.
yeah.
So could we have a motion for that, please?
I'll make a motion to, I can't even read this.
Have it, section 2434, town ordinance comply with the state
Okay.
To
With the
amend.
town, with the charter.
charter.
Charter, to amend.
So,
Second.
Did you get that, Mrs. Dillon? Okay, thank you. Discussion from the council? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We have in our packet a resignation letter from the chief of police, Heidi.
okay. Dear members of the Foster Town Council, I am submitting this letter of resignation as the chief of police for the town of Foster Police Department effective April 7th, 2023. I truly appreciate the opportunity that I have had to serve as your police chief, as well as the support and confidence that you as council have given me during the time as police chief. All of you, as well as the fine people of this town, will always hold a special place in my heart, and it has been an honor to serve this town. I wish you all well. Sincerely, Dave Wright.
What's the pleasure of the council?
Move to accept with regrets.
Second.
Discussion? David, do you want to say anything?
Basically, like I stated in the letter, it was poor timing, a lot of people are resigning, but as, you know, everything has a shelf life. I've reached mine and I'm pursuing a new opportunity, but this town will always hold a special place in my heart, and I really appreciate the opportunity to wear the one. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, David.
Good luck. So the motion has been made, it's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, David, for all your help.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Certainly.
Still here for
Appreciate
56
you
more
had-
days and I'll wake up.
You certainly have had a
Counting the
difficult
days,
time.
huh?
So next on the agenda is the advertisement for the chief's position. We had discussed it before that that it would come to me, but I think it might be more appropriate for it to go to Kelly.
Yeah.
So if we advertise, and the chief did put out letters to, or put out notification to
To the
the
Rhode
Rhode Island and the New England.
Yes, I put it out to the Rhode Island Police Chiefs Association and the Chief of Police in Tiverton. He has connections with the New England Chiefs Association. He put it out to that as well.
So if you would correct that to include, if everyone agrees to that, to have it be Kelly's email address.
Okay, I'll
Okay.
let Mike Winquist know. He's the secretary of the association. He's the one that
Thank
does,
you.
you know, Mike.
Did the council have any other suggestions for advertisement? We have received 3 so far. Any further discussion on that? Okay. Formation of an interview committee for the police chief.
Denise, I'd like to serve on that.
Okay.
You know, Can I make a motion to put Denise as liaison and Heidi
Mhm.
on the interview committee?
And would it be appropriate to have Joanna as the
Yes.
solicitor?
Yes.
for-
Joanna and Kelly.
Kelly.
Okay, is there
Did you want another chief, we talked about that as well?
A lot.
another
Did
sheet?
you want another outside chief, you had talked about that?
I think it's good the way it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
and we're gonna wait until when?
Second?
Oh,
What's the plan?
what, do we have a date that you want to?
But you wanna wait until you then gather the resumes and go from there?
Then we can decide.
Well, no, but do you want a date to close the,
We've always left them
Or at
until
least start, or at least
until
start
August.
interviewing, did you wanna wait till, do you wanna just start
do you
interviewing?
want to wait a couple of weeks to see
do
if
you-
there's more in?
Yeah, but I don't wanna get too close to
No.
it, because if somebody's working somewhere else, they're gonna have to give
You
notice.
gotta give notice, because it's a type of position, I mean, like, for example, myself, I gave the
3
council,
months.
We can wait till-
we'll get almost 3 months, and because it is a process, most chiefs will do the same between 1 to 3 months, so, you know, they would have to give notice, and like, even in when my waning time is here, I'd like to, whoever is selected by the council, I'd like to just bring him to the station, show him around, get him set up, so he'll be ready to go.
That might not be a
I say
plus.
like in 2
Wow,
weeks.
I'm just saying,
After that,
you know, just
okay, like
Ooh.
Thursday on that council meeting.
maybe showing him around is the wrong term.
Yeah.
So if they
But don't put it in the
say-
basement.
The
You
months
know.
interview,
Yeah.
and then start.
You guys
Yes,
can-
Yeah.
We don't have to settle that.
No, we don't.
No.
Wait till the next.
We'll do
Yeah.
that as a
Yeah.
committee.
Sooner rather than
Yeah.
later.
Good.
Okay, so a motion has been made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Moving on, there was discussion about hiring. I received 2 emails of hiring a consultant to assist us during this process. You have both emails in your packet. What's the pleasure of the council?
You know, I don't know that we need that right at this time. I think if we got into
Jam?
or we were really having difficulty with a couple of applicants, and we needed an opinion of another police chief or something from another outside agency, I think that we could bring somebody in then. I don't think it's necessary to pay somebody to do our job for us. That's what our job is, you know, is to go through these, and I know that's just my opinion. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
I agree.
I also agree.
Okay.
Denise, what do you think?
That- That's fine with me. So, moving on, there is the resignation letter of our tax assessor collector. Heidi.
I'll read this with my glasses on this time. To the Honorable Town Council, please accept this letter as formal notice of my resignation as assessor collector for the town of Foster. My last day of employment will be February 23rd, 2023. I am incredibly grateful for the opportunities I have been given in both of these roles. I value the insights that I have learned and expect them to help me in my future endeavors. I have truly loved working with the finance department and will bring many positive memories with me. I would also like to thank you for being supportive of my professional growth. Please let me know how I can assist in making this transition seamless for everyone involved. Sincerely, Caitlin Boyer. I can't talk.
What's the pleasure of the council?
I'm gonna move to accept with regrets.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so now we have the advertisement for the tax collector position. How do we want to advertise for this? Do you have suggestions for us?
So, I wanted to talk to you in executive session about a possible, restructuring plan for our office. You know that we've done this before based on, our personal needs within the department and the best use of our resources and our funding. And I'd like to look at that. But for now, we had worked with Julia to create a new job description, which is why I put it in, you put it in Sugar Sync, for the tax collector before we hired Kate, to be tax collector, administrative, I actually have it. Tax collector and accounts administrator, because we're trying to, we don't need a full-time tax collector, as you all know, but we need assistance in other ways, and we're gonna revert back to that job description, it's my recommendation, and advertise for that position. Okay?
So you need advertisement for a tax collector slash administrative.
Assistant, kind of, as administrative.
Accounts
Accounts
administrator.
Accounts
administrator.
administrator.
Yeah, job description. And there's a detail that it explains that they're gonna do some of the functions within the office itself. I envision this person doing accounts payable, collections, and some overall support, so.
We need a motion to how to advertise. So where would you suggest we advertise?
They have, there's a professional site for tax collectors, so I'll ask Kate to put it out on there. And probably within our organizations, you know, for the government finances, but, you know, generally speaking, we don't, people pull from us, not the other way around. And unfortunately, and I do say this, we'll probably have to put it on Indeed or something.
I was just
like that
gonna say
somehow.
Indeed.
We
okay.
try not to, because when you have a broad, it, like, literally, you get anything that sticks, we'll probably get 100 in 3 weeks. So, but we'll have to just filter them out like we generally do, it's just a lot more work that way, but.
All right, so I'll make a motion to allow Kelly to advertise for the tax collector accounts administrator position on Indeed, the tax collector's state site? Is that what it's
They have
called?
like a professional site.
A professional site, and on government finance.
Second.
Like any site that we can find that's
Yeah.
generally, maybe even in LinkedIn, or,
Yeah.
And possibly.
But I think you should have
local paper.
discretion, maybe I should
Thank
put
you.
that in my motion too, that Kelly have discretion over where she
Wherever we
advertises.
can to find it.
Discussion from the council. I don't know whose hand was up first.
I've taken it.
Patty?
I can also put it on the assessor's site. We get a lot of, when there's a collector's position open, they put it on to all the assessors to let them put it through their city or town.
Yeah.
So I can put it on there.
I can have Kate, I can have Kate do it at the same time she does it, because she's a member of both if you want, so it's not, or you could do it, but she'll have the actual job description there, so.
Yeah, we need the description. I
Yeah.
can just put it out to all of them.
Thank you.
We're gonna
Thanks,
put it
Patty.
wherever we can to get the
Right.
best person available, that's the goal.
Mrs. Ryder?
Number one, what's happening with the assessor position? Is it
We haven't
officially-
discussed it, and I don't have their permission
And
to.
number two, that's not what it says on this agenda item, tax collector slash administrative, blah, blah, blah.
It says tax collector, tax
Assessor.
assessor, and that's their role, the tax collector is tax collector administrative.
Well, I
assistant.
understand, but it says advertising for, but that's not the motion that was made.
No, it was not. So,
Okay, so,
can we make a motion to advertise for a tax collector?
well, now, I
Well,
need
it's
to do
this
a
for the
motion
tax
to
collector
advertise.
position, and the position changed back in August during an open meeting where you guys voted to change
So we're
the
good?
job description title to tax collector and accounts administrator. It's no different than calling planning official town planner, because it's planning official in the job description, it's planning official in your charter, but we colloquially refer to it as town planner.
So we're good.
Yeah, I don't see DBG having a problem with that.
Thank you. So the motion has been made, it's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Moving on, we need the formation of an interview committee for the position.
I'm gonna be on one, Denise is on one.
That's what I assumed Denise would be
I
on.
make a
Two.
motion that David and Steve are on that
Okay.
committee.
Are you gonna be able to?
The only thing
That's
is,
fine, and if you're not there, do you have a problem with,
absolutely
Chris
not.
stepping in? There you go, that will solve all of that, right?
Do you have a problem with that,
Are
Chris?
you okay, Chris?
I'm good.
Chris is good, he'll come if I call him, right, Chris?
How about somebody to just make it? All right, Is that,
Right.
is that the way you
I'm
want it?
gonna try to accommodate your
want it?
schedule. I'll do it however it works, based on timing and whether or not we have somebody available.
All right.
If we don't have enough good
Yeah.
qualified people in time,
Okay.
then we'll wait.
Okay.
And if we have them available and I wanna bring them in sooner, then we'll move forward.
Okay, and Karen,
I think Karen would be a good asset to have on. I would actually like to ask Kate, as the accident like we've had with
Mhm.
Mike, if she's available, but I don't wanna hold up the process
Right.
for her.
right,
The same thing with Karen, I don't wanna hold up the process. I don't mind Sue as another person in the office, I wouldn't even mind Julia, but again, I want to be, it was very difficult to get everybody all at once for the planner, and I don't wanna hold up a whole process to gather a whole bunch of people. And I say, Julia, because she's helped us, we've modified quite a few things in our office, and we're trying to move forward and progress, and I'm not opposed
what's
to
the pleasure of
a
the council?
independent party, I'm not opposed to anything. So I would, can we just try to at least say, like, at least the 2 council members, and as many of the people that I've listed as possible, if we're available, and if something happens, and Julie could step in possibly, or
all right, so who's making that motion?
I did make one, didn't I? I already made one?
Well, no, but you want
I made
Chris
it,
did.
right?
Chris
Oh,
did.
Chris did.
I made
Okay.
the motion.
All right, I thought I heard somebody.
Okay.
So.
You want me to
Second.
withdraw my
Yes, I
motion
did.
so we can do it over
Because that
again?
was Chris made the motion, Steve seconded it.
Okay,
Okay, but then it was discussion.
It was Chris and
Chris and
Steve,
Steve, yep.
and David, it was actually Steve and David, and
It's
Chris
exactly
will
right,
step
it's
in.
right,
and try to-
David,
Yeah.
please, sorry.
And then we'll have people within the office to represent, whoever that, those are the people I'm thinking of, whoever it fits. And if it doesn't work, possibly Julia as well, if that would work with you. And we'll try to make it coordinate so that we can do it.
so the motion has been made and been seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Next on the list is the request for a bid for the ADA upgrades at the employee entrance. As you recall, we had that discussion last week, or the last meeting, and we asked to have it put on the agenda. What's the pleasure of the council?
I make a motion to have the DPW director seek a bid or bids.
Put on an RFP?
Do you have the information for an RFP? Because generally you have to have some sort of an engineer so they know what they're bidding on.
Yeah, that's, so
Right.
if I may.
Yes.
So, again, I should have had that information tonight. I did, what I'm trying to do is get the engineer to give us a quote. Just like we did with the wash bay, we had to get a quote. I actually used the MPA Master Price Agreement to get an engineer to design, give me a price. It was $7,500 just to have the plans to draw up, to be built, the wash bay, so we build it correctly. That's what I'm reaching out to do. I had took the initiative to do that, to get a hold of the same engineer who's on the MPA, to give me a proposal. We've been quite short-handed this week in DPW, and I had some work on Jenks Road I had to get to. I did text message him Monday. He said he'd have it to me this week. It's probably in my email. I didn't get a chance to look at it yesterday and today. Once I get that, you're gonna have a number that you'll need to decide on. Do you want to spend that money to have the engineer plans drawn up, which will give you an idea, the next step, how much it's gonna cost and what it's gonna entail at that point.
Can you bring that to the next meeting? Okay.
So Steve made a motion, who seconded it?
Do we even need a motion? I mean, isn't that within his job to
You
do
can
that, or-
well, you can withdraw, he made a motion to
Right.
have Gordon do
Okay.
the RFP,
Yeah.
so just withdraw, because it's not right.
Okay,
I withdraw it.
okay. And for the next meeting, you're going to bring the engineer?
Cost of an engineer to draw it up. I just wanna be clear, this isn't simple. He did come over, he did look at it, and because the short distance, he'll have to figure out 8 degrees. You can go more than 2% because of the short distance, you're gonna need railing, so it's not, it's quite an entailed thing to do it correctly.
So now we're going to our next item, which is the request from the Foster Old Home Days Committee. I'm sorry, we were moving on.
Yeah, I'm holding my hand up for quite a while to school.
Go ahead, Gunther.
As I understand this one, what I hear is, the main problem is that the desk is in the way, so that the other exit can be used. Secondly, do we need an engineer to build a ramp?
Yes, to have a handicap
Absolutely.
ramp, you have to have an engineer do it.
I
Because
think
it has
it's
to be.
space right away.
The ADA compliance is quite difficult depending on your length. If you can have a certain amount of length, you gotta meet no minimum than 2%. If you don't
It's
have
not-
that,
and Gunther, it's
Yeah.
different because on a home, on a private home, I'm sure it's different than putting a ramp up there.
Public
And
access.
putting a ramp up on a public building.
I know. It's right here, right paragraph 303.4, ramp requirements, paragraph 4 or 5. It's right here, I can give you all the specs right here.
so the issue with that is we may not have that space because there's a distance between the 17 inches or 18 inches we need from the step to the parking lot. You can't have a ramp going to the middle of the parking lot. So because it's shorter, it has to be calculated on an 8-degree pitch, which is allowed with certain flat areas along with railing. So you need to have that design to go out to an RFP so a contractor can bid on the appropriate job. So the first step is hiring an engineer, especially when you're dealing with
We've
public
made-
facilities.
We've made that clear, we're moving on. Mrs. Ryder, quickly?
No, just quickly, I was, you know, you've had a judgment call from the fire marshal, who I assume is the final word. And all you have to do is spend $500 to move the sign. That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Ryder. Moving on to the request from the Foster Old Home Days Committee for the use of the fairgrounds. You have within your packet an email from Loretta.
Dear Foster Town Council members, the Foster Old Home Days Committee is requesting that Old Home Days be held July 28th, 29th, and 30th, 2023 on the Town Hall grounds. And in the schedule of events, we will have time available Friday evening for the annual council awards. Please send written confirmation for permission to hold Foster Old Home Day on the town grounds July 28th, 30th, oh, she missed a date, July, oh, 28 to 30, okay. 2023, sincerely, Loretta Rotondo.
And they also generally use setup time for that week,
Yeah.
which was not included in this, but I'm assuming that we would grant that.
Yes, I would say so. So I'll make a motion to approve the request of Old Home Days Committee to hold Old Home Days on July 28th, 29th, and 30th of 2023, and permit them whatever time they need for setup.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Tammy,
Yeah.
we're here. Oh, no, we're not.
No.
Never mind, Tammy.
Not yet.
Okay.
Oh, wait, one more minute.
Hang on.
You were the last edition,
I know,
Tam,
I
that's
did.
why.
Sorry, Tammy.
That's okay.
Okay, so, the Memorial Day Parade, adjunct, I forgot what his whole title is, adjunct commander Fortier. And I had discussed the fact that in the past few years, we have not had the band at the parade. There hasn't been a parade, so, we met with the Pontiac High School and Middle School band regarding the Memorial Day Parade. I met with Mr. Fortier and a gentleman from, Adam, I don't know his last name.
He's the finance
He's
treasurer,
from
whatever.
Gloucester.
Yeah.
And we met with the director of the music program and the middle school and high school band. What they have proposed to us is having both bands, the middle school and the high school band, come. It would require hiring 2 buses for Foster, and Gloucester would hire 2 buses. It would be a total of 5 hours for the buses at $127.50 for the buses. Foster's, yeah,
Per
yeah.
bus.
Yeah, so Foster, the total would be $2,550. Foster's would be $1,275 to have the band be able to participate and have the parade come back for Memorial Day.
What has it cost us in the past? It seems like this is pretty high.
This is higher than it was. The bus has gone up. Last year, Mr. Fortier took upon himself when he heard the price, said no. I talked to him about the fact that I think it needs to come to the council. We need to discuss it because I think it's good for the town. I think it's something people look forward to. So, I don't know what the pleasure of the council is. I know Gloucester,
Gloucester's looking to expand it. They haven't actually voted on the price of the bus, but if they're looking to expand it and figure it out, they're not gonna exclude the band
right,
at that point.
they want to make their parade bigger, longer and bigger. So, I don't know what the pleasure of the.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And this would come from contingency?
No, I was thinking that we've had their money in a separate fund for quite a while, that's not being used. They used to have fireworks. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
What's that?
Public Safety Day.
They used to have Public Safety Day and they
Yeah.
haven't done it, and so some of that money's been sitting there. We also had money that was like, that we put in the rec fund because we didn't know, you receive it for these types of things, but we haven't had anything. So we could take it from either one of those
And
funds,
the-
and you have more than enough for that.
Are those funds specific to this kind of use? I
Not
mean-
your department, it's like a different thing.
Terry's going, no, no.
I mean, are they, like, the DARE funds, what are
The
they?
DARE funds, they used to use it for the fireworks and, that Public Safety Day, so this is really no different.
How much do you
Yes,
have?
it could be. I wanna say it's like 3,000-4,000, and this would be about 1,200. So, I mean, you could definitely fund it.
Mhm.
We used to pay about 300 back in the day.
Yeah,
Not
I
to
know.
sound like
I
my
know.
grandmother, but back in the day.
It is.
And what happened was I wanna see the infantry for Gloucester paid for the other 300, so it'd be about
I'm
600.
sorry, I can't hear you, Steve.
And then there was a while that the ambulance corps would pick it up because they had money and they would do it as almost like a charitable thing for the town. And then they
Gloucester
started,
Center used to do did you guys do the donuts or just held it there?
Yeah.
so then we had an issue with, there was an issue where they wanted to include the middle school. That's when it started to get expensive. They did the both schools. So originally it was only the high school, so it was only the 2 buses. And it was just, everything was cheaper then, right? And now they basically doubled the buses because they've added the middle school too, and they think it's just a good thing for the kids. They actually want the kids to do
Yeah.
it as they progress. And
I mean, I think it's good for them.
And I was suggesting to Denise, if you're gonna have it, then make it a little bit bigger. Like I think there were times when the council handed out things to the kids, you all walked, right, yeah. And you could do different things too. You could end up in the fairgrounds and do something different after, even if you had gathered. There's so many things you could do with it if you wanted to do something.
Is that a job for Tammy?
I was thinking that, but I didn't want to say it out loud. I was gonna talk to her later,
Before we have further discussion,
all right.
I'll accept a motion at this time.
I'm gonna make a motion in the affirmative to approve hiring the buses for the Memorial Day Parade, for the band, for the Memorial Day Parade in the amount of $1,275, and that the funds come out of the DARE fund.
That's an estimate,
An estimate.
so I would just,
Approximately.
yeah.
Or I should say not to exceed something maybe.
Well, at that point, we wouldn't know until it was done.
So that's true.
But
Okay.
this is the price for the buses.
I know, but what if it was 5.5 hours and it took longer or something like that? You don't
Yeah.
know, so don't commit. to
After the
something.
long discussion we've had,
So in other words, if we did do what you wanted
So for
and had something for the kids there, we're paying for that by the hour too.
But that could
The buses
become-
is-
no, the
No.
bus has to leave because they have to get to Gloucester.
So they
They
can
do
afford it,
operate
yeah.
first,
Then they go.
Yeah.
and then they jump on the
No, they
bus
would
and
be
get to.
taking the band back to.
Right.
So you could
Go to
do
Gloucester,
something
yeah.
for your residents who ended up here,
Yeah.
so to speak,
It would not,
volunteer.
it would not increase the bus time
Tam,
because the kids have to get to Gloucester for 10 o'clock. So, we've had a motion, further discussion from the council.
Yeah, did anybody second that, Denise?
Yes,
Yes,
Okay,
Chris,
great.
yes. So, Mrs. Ryder.
I believe economic development consultant, one of her points was to help the image of the town and create more of a sense of community, to make it more welcoming, and this would certainly go toward that. I mean, we have pictures at Preservation of past Memorial Day and other days where there were actually floats. Crazy. We've had in the past where 4-H
It's been a long time since.
horses they would, you know, they'd have their horses. You'd have other 4-H members, I don't know, marching bunnies or something. But to make it a real community activity.
Good suggestion. I think that's what Gloucester's looking to do too. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you. What? Maybe what?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Now, Tammy, we have you have in your packet a contract. There's that free skating that they have at Smithfield that they've had for years and years, and we've never had to sign anything. I'm assuming something happened somewhere along the line, because now they have waivers, etc. Kelly did send it to Julia.
It's standard.
Yeah, right.
And if the shoe were on the other foot, I would
And
say.
what is the
you guys
rental
have-
agreement?
Do it.
So it's for use of the property. So
I'm not
the rental
sure.
agreement's not signable
I knew
right
it was
now.
something for Julia.
The rental agreement's not signable because it doesn't have the dates, the price or anything. That's just a form that they would use. So it's to use the ice rink for the days that.
But don't other schools do it in conjunction with us? It's not just Pontiac, right? Or are we gonna get one specific day?
Isn't it Smithfield does it for, I think it's been advertised in the Observer and.
Well, Situate usually does a day, or like sometimes we end up on the same day with different hours.
So
No, I think that's what they were asking.
Yes.
Is it just you for that period of time?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, so, okay.
And each
All right.
child would have to fill out a waiver, that's,
Right.
which wasn't there.
Actually, I have a question.
Yeah, I was just
Did
confused
this
about
come
the
to you?
rental.
Did Smithfield send this to you?
Yes.
Did you get Exhibit A
That's what I asked
to the,
Oh, I looked at that too.
to the waiver? So, all right, so it's not ready to sign because we don't have Exhibit A. What the waiver is that you would have to have everyone sign, because they have a version, and I'd take a look at that to make sure that it would incorporate protecting Foster as well as Smithfield. I have a feeling it just protects Smithfield, so we could just do a version of that protects Foster.
So you need a copy of their.
Of Exhibit A, yeah, and I'll get in touch with Tammy.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, and you did get the insurance.
Oh, okay,
You
the
did
trust.
get it, yep.
Okay.
Because the trust probably insures Smithfield and probably is the one who told them to do all of these things, so they were very prepared for it. I put in a request and they submitted it within like 48 hours.
And it's not just for Pontiac students, right? Isn't it for,
It's for Foster.
it's for foster kids?
The only thing I would suggest is once they give you the numbers and they go to fill this out, just let me take another look at it before you sign it.
Absolutely.
So who's gonna still make that new motion, who's gonna sign it? Because normally I would have expected something like that with legal implications, I was gonna have you sign it. So if
Yeah,
you're,
that's totally, but I feel like because they've contacted
They can, yeah.
Tammy, they'll give Tammy the full version, so I'll take a look at like the
Right.
filled out version before we have to.
So what's the pleasure of the council?
What is the date you're looking at?
2/20.
February 20th.
it's February
Okay.
vacation.
Because we
It's
usually
really
do,
close.
yeah.
So that's why we're looking for the motion now.
So, okay.
That's why we added it last minute.
Yeah, so, but the motion would be for Denise
Whoever to sign it, but
to
just make
sign
that
it,
on the
but
motion.
Once I've
you.
had a look at the,
Right,
once I've
without-
had the opportunity to look at the fully filled out rental agreement, because this is just the form.
Yep.
And then had an opportunity to look at the Exhibit A to the waiver, which is the waiver that the individuals will sign, just to make sure, to see if it covers just Smithfield or Smithfield and Foster, so I can add a Foster one if necessary.
All right, so I'll make a motion to allow Denise DeFranco to sign a rental agreement with the Smithfield Ice Rink and, well, the waiver she doesn't need to sign, but authorize
So
that.
the town will be has the waiver, there's a subsequent waiver referenced as Exhibit A,
As Exhibit A.
which is the waiver that the individuals will sign, but
Okay,
the town
when-
does need to sign. this
Once
waiver.
you've seen that and you approve it.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We will go into executive session. I'll take a motion to do that.
I move to go into executive closed session pursuant to Rhode Island